Hi there, everyone, and welcome to this month's Audio Production Town Hall. I'm Brian Smithers. I'm the Program Director of Audio Production, and today we're going to be talking with one of our favorite colleagues, Michelle Moreno from Academic Coaching. Before we get started, I want to remind you all that we're here with the Audio Production Town Hall every fourth Monday of every month. We talk about various things from month to month, from mixing techniques to new plugins and new gear to marketing to academic coaching and all sorts of things. So be sure to subscribe to the channel, keep an eye on FS1 for announcements of our topic each month and a link to join us. Tell all your friends and we look forward to having you join us month by month. So, Michelle, welcome to the Audio Production Town Hall.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
And we're delighted to have you with us today. So, I guess a good point to start our conversation is to jump in the Wayback Machine and ask you, what was it that motivated us to create an academic coaching team?
Yeah. So I think in a profession, in an area like academic advising, you get to see the entire active student journey, and you're seeing it over and over, right? Repeatedly, you're seeing what this active student journey looks like, and each journey is unique, right? It's not the same for any student, but you start to notice trends, right? You get to celebrate a lot of successes in that type of role, but you also see a lot of challenges and a lot of students struggling. So, you know, within advising, what we would see so often is that academic declines, the need to take time off, even the need to maybe withdraw from Full Sail, was usually because of something outside of school, right? There was some type of life circumstance, event that was going on impacting these students. They were academically capable, they wanted to be here, they wanted to get their degree, but life was just not allowing it. So that's kind of what started the idea of academic coaching, is how do we help them navigate life's challenges during their enrollment here at Full Sail, right? How do we support them through their degree? And we had many kind of iterations of it over the year. We had a role called Academic Success Coaches, where we worked primarily with students that were struggling, right, on academic probation. We had another role called Academic Mentors, which is very similar, really trying to support those students in regaining satisfactory academic progress, but it really was still not addressing, right, that like underlying need of life just impacting their journey. So we made a coaching, right? We just kind of talked about it, started just prior to the pandemic, right? We were doing some building, some training. Then the pandemic happened, everything changed, and we launched very quickly in response to everything that was going on. I think student need was at its highest point, just for connection, just to connect. Through that process, we also learned that a lot of life's challenges were things that we don't have control over or that we couldn't influence. So things like financial issues, family issues, unmet medical needs, unmet mental health needs. So we had to pivot again in academic coaching. How can we support students knowing that these types of things we have very little control or influence over? So we asked the students. We did a needs assessment, asked the students. We asked faculty and staff, kind of outside of the world of mental health and things we can't control. Where do our students need the most support? And we kept seeing things like time management, stress management, and just assistance with setting goals, how to break down goals, how to work towards their goals. So that was the foundation for what academic coaching is today, where we are primarily supporting students with skill development in the areas of time management, stress management, goal setting, and motivation. So that was the precursor to it all. It's just how do we help, how do we prepare them to navigate some of life's challenges? And skill development was the answer.
That's awesome. And thank you for taking that journey and getting to a point where we can do a better and better job of helping our students succeed. As teachers, we see that all the time. We're so focused on curriculum. Here are the things that you need to be learning. Here are the assignments that you need to be doing, the instructions that you need to be following.
Yes.
But people come to us from all sorts of different journeys, different high schools, GEDs, different university experiences,
Yes.
Different upbringings. I mean, there's a near infinite number of variations on how people get here, and yet we try to approach them from some kind of common path and find that when things are not working as planned, it's because there's something on that unique journey that's steering them away. And that's not something that we have that much expertise in or the bandwidth to really do. So knowing that we can refer a student or students can find their way to academic coaching is a great help for us in the classroom.
Yes, and it, even those types of topics, right, like time management or stress management, a lot of times students know that that's what they're struggling with, but they don't know kind of exactly why, right? So we might see students come to academic coaching saying like, I'm just so stressed, I'm so overwhelmed, I can't keep up with classes, it's too much going on. And as we start to peel back the layers, we realize that it's like, okay, well maybe simply implementing some scheduling tools can reduce some of that stress. Making sure that we're prioritizing our tasks based on what's important and urgent. And we just started finding these little things, right, from instructors, from students that could make the impact in the classroom, but also address the amount of stress and overwhelm the students were experiencing.
That's great. One of the things that we discover when we're struggling with things is that as unique as we are, there's probably someone else who's been down this particular frustrating path before. So knowing that we've got people with expertise like yours, people who are keeping their ear to the ground and researching all of these things and finding the way to break things down, finding the paths that others have found to be successful in terms of managing your time, managing your stress, and so forth, helps us, A, know that we're not as weird as we might think, and B, relax a little bit knowing that this is a solution that people like us have managed to solve before.
100%. And the commonality, I think, is probably one of our favorite things in academic coaching to focus on. A lot of the times, the things we struggle with most or that are really difficult to talk about, we have in common with other people. So for students who have attended maybe some of our coaching workshops or events, we discuss that very candidly. So I do open one of our sessions, unknowns to the audience at the time, with my kind of college journey story. And it was not easy for me. I ended up on academic probation after my first semester at UCF. And so much of it was not because of my academic capabilities, not because I wasn't able to do it. I just hadn't learned a lot of those self-management skills. I didn't really know how to manage my time, to set goals, to manage stress. And it was my first time out of home on my own as well. So I'm going through the transition of college and leaving home. And I think I would say the same for all of the coaching team, not that they had the same struggles, but we all know what those struggles can look like. We all went through college at one point ourselves. So we take, the knowledge we're finding out, the research we're doing, but also our own anecdotal kind of evidence and knowledge based on what we struggled with in school, the support we wished we would have had when we were there, and helping make those connections, right? The commonality really is one of the most important things, because myself, I learned with my challenges with time management and scheduling, if it was always somebody who was super good at time management trying to help me, I already knew it was gonna be a loss because those methods were not gonna work for me. I struggle with time management, so I was not gonna be very type A time tracking, having everything in my planner. So just again, like we had to take a step back and see if this doesn't work for me or this works for me, chances are it doesn't work or works for another student. So we just hit the ground running, taking all of our experience and all of the knowledge that we can find even at other schools. We looked at a lot of colleges to see what kind of structures they had for academic coaching and just kind of mixed it all together, right, to create what we have today.
That's great. You actually kind of bring up one of the great fallacies that we're all prone to when we're struggling is thinking that everybody else has it together but us. I've known you for a lot of years now, and you are so together that it never would have occurred to me that you had any period in your life when you were struggling as you just described.
Yeah, and that's how, I mean, it's, I think any of us, right, at any given time are dealing with challenges that others might not be aware of, and some of us are just really good at masking it. So when I share that I struggle with organization or time management or struggle with public speaking or confidence, I get that reaction a lot, like I would have never guessed. But that goes to show that you can have those challenges and still work through them. I'll probably never get over it, but I have a lot of really good tools and techniques I use to balance it out.
That's cool. So we were actually talking before airtime about the fact that people are often surprised to know that I'm an introvert.
Yes.
I would just as soon sit by myself and quiet, listening to music and not interfacing with the world, but yet I'm a performer who've played literally tens of thousands of concerts in my life, and a teacher.
Yeah.
And an administrator. So I talk to all sorts of different audiences, but there have been times in my life when I was nearly pulled apart by the stress
Yeah.
of doing that. And without getting into the weeds, I managed to find my own solution to that so that I could tackle it and move forward. But, you know, we all have those moments.
Yes, absolutely. And it's one of my favorite things to talk about when we talk about mindset and like growth mindset, positive affirmations are those and statements. Two things can be true at the same time.
Yeah.
So I can be someone who struggles with time management and know some really good tools and techniques that I can teach others to help them. You can be an introvert and be a performer and perform through that nervousness. So I love the and statements because, yeah, I mean, Full Sail is going to be hard and you can do it. Right?
Yes.
So it's an and statement. Two things can be true at the same time.
Exactly. So can you talk to us about some of the resources that academic coaching offers to students?
Yeah, absolutely. So our kind of more, I'd say more well-known model is our one-on-one coaching, and that is student initiated. So if a student wants that additional support, building skills like time management, stress management, goal setting, and motivation, they can submit a referral. Share a little bit about what's been going on, the challenges they're having, and we will get them assigned to a coach for one-on-one sessions. Now that is a commitment. The coaches schedule initially like a welcome meeting with a student where we'll get to know them. We even have an assessment that students take to prepare for that where they tell us, you know, what are their strengths, their skills, their challenges. And we kind of review that, get to know them, and based on that assessment, kind of figure out maybe where to start. You know, we can see, okay, say procrastination is a concern in time management. Let's start focusing on that first. And that is followed by 8 one-on-one sessions that happen every other week for about 45 minutes to an hour. So big picture doesn't sound like a huge time commitment, but if time management's a struggle because you go to school full time and you have a family and you have a job, an hour every other week can be a lot. So it's a commitment, but the one-on-one coaching is going to give you that really individualized kind of support based on where you're at, right? We want to meet the students where they're at, so you tell us. You take that assessment, you let us know what's going on, and we provide that support. The other thing we have besides that one-on-one coaching is what we call scalable coaching. So that is our way to reach our broader student population, because the reality is a one-on-one coaching model is going to be near impossible for a student population of, say, 20,000 students. Not everybody wants a one-on-one coaching, and not everybody will need one-on-one coaching. So we created these kind of different, I'd say, events, workshops, and social avenues for students to get connected to academic coaching.
That's cool. So I was just backing up to the one-on-one coaching. There must be dozens of you in academic coaching to serve.
Yes. No. And we have a bit of a unique team structure. So academic coaching is a small team. You have me as the team leader. We have Michelle Zoll, who is our senior coach, who, while she will work with students one-on-one, her main role is to support those scalable efforts. So she's helping us write and create workshops, designing tools to use with students to teach these techniques. She's helping build pages in the SharePoint. She's writing stories, student contests, all kinds of stuff like that. So not a whole lot of support with the one-on-one. We also have another really unique role called a creative content coordinator. Like I mentioned, we have tools that we use. We have SharePoint pages. We have our Full Sail One, and none of us are artists by nature. So we have someone who helps develop all of that for us. Any images or graphics we need, any worksheets, and he helps us stay on top of accessibility. So making sure our PDFs are screen reader friendly is another part of his role. So that leaves us with 3 full-time coaches. So we have a team, right now of 3, Rosin Felix, Sharina Sermons, and Andrew Camacho, who have been with us since the inception of coaching and prior as academic advisors. So a small but mighty team.
Small but mighty.
Small
indeed.
but mighty.
Well, you all are amazing to be able to offer that service with with a crew like that, but that's awesome.
Yes, and it is a challenge, for that one-on-one support. But again, not everybody is going to want that type of intensive support.
I'm curious, if for your coaching sessions, do you tend to, I don't want to call it assign homework, but do you actually give the student things to do and think about and try between sessions?
Yeah, we do. So each session, the coach is going to help them set a goal. And sometimes that goal is the same throughout the academic coaching journey. And it can be personal, it can be academic, it can be professional. A lot of times we will see goals like, I want to pass all my classes this semester. But we got to break that down into many steps. So say an example might be a computer animation student who is struggling with certain parts of their art, their character development. We might break down that goal of increasing their confidence in their art abilities to a call to action every week that's like practice anatomy for an hour every day. Review this video, reach out to your instructor for one-on-one support, contact the co-pilot tutoring center. So we're going to take these different calls to action that relate to the goal. Always with the student buy-in, right? We want them to set the goal. We want them to kind of set this call to action. And then we're going to rate their level of commitment too. If you're saying, I want to increase my confidence by expanding my art abilities, how confident are you in yourself that you're going to dedicate that hour you need every day? And we have them rate it anywhere from a 10 to a 1. And a lot of times a student will put themselves at a 10, and then the next session comes around and the task was not completed. So your coach is also going to provide accountability. If you don't do that task or that call to action, we're going to find out why. Maybe what didn't feel good, what didn't go right, what might we have to adjust. Because if it's not working, it's not working. So we're going to give it a try. If not, we're going to pivot. But yeah, every session we're going to set these little kind of calls to action that might not feel big, but it's just taking that one step, right? Improving that 1% to get just that much closer to the goal. Which can be hard too, right? Having somebody hold you accountable, but that's what's necessary, right? To make new habits, to change old habits, to kind of rewire and relearn some of the things. So it's necessary to set those mini action steps and those calls to action and hold the student accountable.
I love that. There are two things that stand out about that to me, and forgive me for going into teacher mode here for just a second, but it's an occupational hazard. Thing one, the fact that you ask the student to do some self-assessment from one session to the next is amazing, because I used to do oral exams at the end of a course. Every student sat with me for 15 minutes and told me what they knew, and I would ask them to grade themselves, and the level of candor that I got out of 99% of them was a revelation to me. And I think in a lot of cases a revelation to them, because they owned their own progress. And all learning involves self-assessment.
Yes.
If you can't do that, you're never going to be an effective learner. So that's one thing about what you described that really impresses me. The other thing is the fact that as with your academic classes, if you only focus on it when you're in class, you're doomed to failure. Between Monday's lecture and Wednesday's lecture, if you haven't thought about it and engaged the material and really tried to think about how Monday's lecture tied back to last week's lectures, then Wednesday's going to happen and you're going to get 1% out of that, of what you really should be getting out of it. So the fact that you've got this embedded lesson of pay attention in the nooks and crannies and all of the sinew and tendons in between the muscles is a great embedded lesson.
Yes, and we try to be very intentional, outside of just the specific tools and techniques that we might be using. So for example, if we're working in time management and productivity and distractions are concerned, we might suggest implementing the Pomodoro technique. So we can see easily that link between I want to increase productivity and I'm going to use a tool for productivity. But those other things we're doing behind the scenes, like having them set a goal, picking a call to action, rating their commitment level to it, holding them accountable, is teaching a whole nother skill set without even really realizing it or thinking about it. Because we have to do that throughout our life, in school, in careers, constantly, right? Reflecting and if this didn't work, how can I change it? If this worked, how can I continue to utilize this resource? how can I take a step back and look big picture and problem solve? So even if we're not necessarily advertising that we're going to help you with problem solving techniques, we're going to help you with problem solving techniques, because next session comes around and you said, oh, 10 out of 10, I'm using Pomodoro every time I study, and you say you never used it. Well, now it's time to reflect and think why. Was it difficult to implement? Did you not like the timer? Did you not like, what didn't you like about it? Because that's the only way, right? It's trial and error for a lot of this stuff. So if we don't have that candor, if we can't reflect and assess, we're not going to learn how to pivot and recalibrate when we encounter difficulties and challenges, because we're going to encounter them. How do we navigate them?
Right. Did you say it's the Pomodoro technique?
Pomodoro, yes.
Is that someone's name, or does it really have something to do with a tomato?
It does have something to do with tomato, kind of. So a tomato timer, if you ever seen like those kitchen timers where it's like the tomato or the egg and stuff like that. So yeah, the gentleman that made this a popular technique was using the timer for intervals, right? And during those, say, 25 minutes for his Pomodoro cycle, you set that timer and you focus undistracted, right? So for us, that might be shut your email, turn off your Slack notifications, shut your door, make sure you're not distracted, and work 25 minutes on that task. When the alarm goes off, take a break for 5 minutes. When the alarm for that break goes off, come back and do another 25 minutes. And you can do that in intervals. And it seems silly, right? Using a tomato timer. But for me anyways, that rush, right? The pressure of wanting to beat the clock, of only having 25 minutes to get it in. For me, it's motivating. But that break also helps for burnout. I've definitely been a victim to staring at a computer screen for 4 hours on end and never stepping away. So we're not really productive when we're doing that either. So the simple Pomodoro technique that was based on using a tomato timer addresses distractions, it addresses productivity, and it addresses burnout by kind of forcing ourselves to step away and take a break.
That's great. That's awesome. Another thing that strikes me about that is that kind of interval timing is the way a lot of people with really efficient learning styles learn intuitively.
Yes.
And so what we do is we learn from people who have, who are natural athletes at learning, and figure out what it is that makes that effective and efficient for them, and then train people in some really measurable, repeatable ways that they can adopt those same efficiencies.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because I've mentioned it with many students, but I talk about Kobe Bryant and his journey with basketball, having shared that first year he went to basketball camp, he didn't make any of his shots. So all he did was come back and start practicing the techniques, practice how to dribble, practice how to shoot, doing the free throws, doing the three-point. He just worked on each technical skill until he got it and came back the next summer and crushed it, but he continued to do that, to always focus on the fundamentals, is what he said. You've got to practice the fundamentals, and until you nail those fundamentals, you're not going to be able to make that progression. So it's one of those stories that a lot of people know who he is, right? So it's relatable. He doesn't love, Kobe Bryant. So it's an example of one of those, right? Somebody figured out that you got to go back to the basics and really nail those. Yeah, why didn't I think of that? It's so simple, but we try to implement the same mindset in coaching. Break it down to the most basic. Start at the beginning. Work on the fundamentals, and then we can build.
Yep. There's that fallacy again. I would have assumed and did always assume that Kobe was a born natural athlete, and that he worked hard at it, but that struggling like you just described was never really a major part of his story.
Yeah, no, I don't think anybody would.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think in one of our resources that I'll share a little bit later, I think we have a link to one of his videos talking about it, like a TED Talk type conversation, because it is very inspiring. Because you don't, again, those things we don't talk about usually are the things we have most in common. So when you get to see someone influential and successful saying, I struggled too, and this is what helped me, it does provide some motivation.
Very cool. So if anybody listening has any questions, let us know. Just type it into the YouTube chat, and we'll get to them in the remaining time. We're happy to address any questions that you have. Is now a good time for us to show us around the academic coaching space on FS1?
Yeah, absolutely. That's probably the most important thing, right? It's really hard to ask for help or ask for support. it's even harder where you don't know where to look, right? And you don't know who to ask. So I would love to go ahead and share the best ways to get connected with academic coaching. So I believe we have pulled up on the screen Full Sail 1 right now, if that's what you're seeing. And if you're not overly familiar with Full Sail 1, I'll go back to the beginning. But this is Full Sail 1, right? When you log in and you kind of see the basic layout. And where I'm at is in the Connect tab. If you come over here on the side, you're going to see something called Spaces. And that is where academic coaching lives. Because it's the A, right? We're right up there in that top row with first generation college students. So we're really easy to find. But it's also a really, what I like to say is easy and low stakes way to get involved with coaching and get interacting with us. Because while this does house things like our events and our referrals, it has a lot of other content too. So say you just want to get more involved in the community, start talking to other students, step out of your comfort zone. Every month we do a student contest, and we pick one random winner to get a gift card to the hangar. So not only are you stepping out of your comfort zone, but there is an additional incentive to do so. And our contest this month is about our furry stress busters, right? Using our pets as a kind of coping technique. Because believe it or not, a lot of people will put their pets in that like inner circle, their support circle, because they do provide so much emotional support for some of us. So we can go into this contest and kind of read the instructions, but just post and share a little bit. So look at how adorable. Someone shared a photo of their cat. So really easy way to kind of get involved. We also post stories every month. So you can see a story here from Cozy Bubble to Limitless Growth, talking about stepping out of our zones of comfort and how to push through that, uncomfortability of stepping outside of that comfort zone. We also list our events here. So we have, I talked about that scalable coaching. We have workshops and events. That way we can, meet with many students at once. So we have a webinar we do every single month called Thriving Through Transition. And I mean, it's great for anybody, but it's really geared towards those students who are going through that transition of starting college or returning to college, or maybe going through other life transitions while being enrolled at college. So we talk about transitional stress. And then we have 2 workshops, one that focuses on procrastination. So you'll notice not overcoming the cycle of procrastination, but interrupting, right? Because that's usually what we're doing. It's very hard to overcome it completely. And we have one called Don't Get Swept Away by Stress, where we focus on building healthy coping skills. And our senior coach, Michelle Zold, developed a tool called the SWEPT method that's going to guide a student through the process of identifying their stress symptoms, how their stress response kicks in, what are some emotional coping skills they could apply, what are some problem-focused coping skills they can apply, and then how they're going to take action, right? How are they going to take steps towards that? So really cool tool to utilize in that workshop. So if you are interested, right, in any of these events, you can sign up here. These are GPS sponsored as well, so you'll get your GPS points. And it's a Zoom webinar, so you have to register at the link. But once you register, you're going to get the email reminders of the event. And if you've registered, you will get a recording after the session ends. And that's both for attendees and those who can't attend after they've registered. So that's our big one, right? The events are kind of our big scalable resource. But if you pop on over to our About tab, you'll find some more hyperlinks. We love hyperlinking stuff. So you will find this link right here. Sign up for one-on-one sessions with an academic coach. This will start the process of getting you connected with academic coaching. So I mentioned you can share a little bit about yourself and any challenges you've encountered. We'll review that. We'll send you our academic coaching agreement. And once we get that back, get you assigned to a coach for that one-on-one support. We also have our academic coaching SharePoints. So that is also linked within this page. You'll see that right here, academic coaching SharePoint. This is like the hub of all things advising. So virtually anything that we talk about in one-on-ones, any tools or topics we might introduce, like that Pomodoro technique, it has a corresponding page in our SharePoint. So this, it helps the coach during sessions. It helps the student after sessions with those call to action. But any active student, faculty, or staff member can access this. So you don't have to be working with a coach. You can just come on in and be like, yeah, I want to learn some new stress management techniques and check it out. We'll see, I'll use it as the example in our time management. But if you come in here, it's going to start off really basic. Let's just talk about the components of time management, that foundation. And you'll see it broken down to topics like scheduling. How are we keeping track of everything we have going on? Prioritization. How do we determine what's the most important and urgent? We have our managing distractions, right? That's a really big one. And here you'll see us link out to the Pomodoro technique. Isn't that nice? And it has its own page, right? Of course, with the tomatoes. But a whole page that just kind of tells you how to utilize the Pomodoro technique. And our beautiful graphics, right, from our visual content coordinator. And then we'll usually have questions too, prompts. So if you're getting stuck and you're like, I don't really know how this applies to me, or I don't know what I don't know how to manage distractions are, what are my distractions? There's gonna be prompts, right, to kind of help you navigate it. And most of the pages are gonna have this cool feature here where you can actually download some type of worksheet or handout to reinforce the information. Like you said, if you only do it in class or session and then you never look at it again or access it again, it's not going to do a whole lot of good. So this is where a lot of times if a call to action is implement the Pomodoro technique when you have time for school, we could link them directly to this handout, right? So it can reinforce what we talked about in session. But this is really it. This is our hub of all things academic coaching, and each focus area is broken down. So you have your time management, your stress management, your goal setting, and your motivation. So if you are maybe interested in coaching or interested in skill development but not ready to commit to one-on-one, this is a good starting place, as well as our workshops and those student contests I mentioned.
Fantastic. Thank you. And all that's on Full Sail 1, one.fullsail.edu.
Yes, and the academic coach space, and something you might see a lot too within academic coaching if you start coming to events or interacting with us. In addition to hyperlinks, we love QR codes. So there's QR codes for all kinds of things. One to get to our SharePoint, one to get to our events tab, one for Full Sail 1. So you'll also see a lot of branded messaging that comes out from coaching with QR codes as well.
Awesome. Thanks for that tour of your resources. There's a lot of depth there.
Yes, a lot of content. There's a lot of content. You can make it easier on yourself too. If you come up to the top of the page, there'll be on the home page, a button to join. So you're not going to see it here since I am the steward of the space, but there'll be a button that allows you to join. The same would go for any support teams or programs at Full Sail. If you look at their pages, there'll be like a follow or join button, and that's going to help curate your Full Sail 1 experience. So you're going to see content from those teams and programs and departments push through, right, so to Full Sail 1 for you.
Super. Speaking of which, if you haven't already joined the audio production degree program on FS1, go do it now.
Yes. I can even show you where it is really quick. Go to departments. Programs, yeah. Programs, and we have right here, audio production. And you can see join. Be part of the over 4,000 community. Kind of get in with the cool kids.
So one of the interesting things that has to come up, and I wonder how you deal with it, is when a student says, but I'm already having trouble managing my time. Where do I find the time for engaging these resources?
Yeah, and that's something that comes up a lot with time management in general. You have to have the time to be able to manage it, is what I like to say. So we'll have students come to coaching who are going to school full-time at Full Sail, which is accelerated already as it is, and then maybe they have a family and they're also working. It's really hard, right, to talk about time management when you simply don't have the time. So what I like to kind of change the phrasing. Instead of saying, I don't have time to do this, we try to rephrase it as in, this is not a priority for me right now, because we have to take some ownership, because if something is a priority, chances are you're going to find the time for it. So yeah, when those conversations come up, we have to talk about prioritization, right? And how does this help get you closer to your goal? We have to find the relatedness right there, and hopefully change that perspective. Because yeah, the reality is if you're needing 20 to 30 hours a week on school and you work a 40-hour job and you have a family, I couldn't be a Full Sail student right now. There's no way I would be able to manage my time. So the conversation shifts from I don't have the time to, well, let's see where we can prioritize some time. And then even if it's an hour time slot, do 2 Pomodoros. Make sure you work for 25 solid minutes, take a 5-minute break, do another solid 25 minutes, and at least we know that that hour has been productive. Right. So yeah, sometimes it's just trying to maximize your productivity or prioritizing when you don't have a lot of time. What are the things that are most important, most valuable, that might take the most amount of time. So for instance, if you have a discussion post that's worth 2% of your grade, but you invest an entire day working on it and you haven't dedicated any time to that assignment that is due on Sunday at 11:59, we're probably not doing a great job prioritizing, right? At some point, we have to say, this discussion post is as good as it's going to get. Let me move on to the next thing that is going to require a lot of time and energy. So we're not reaching out to instructors at 8 p.m. on a Sunday night.
Making the commitment to actually dedicate that time, to
Yes.
invest that time in learning how to manage your time better
Yes.
is the first step toward being able to be better
Yes.
at managing your time.
Yeah, and I get it, because prior coming to Full Sail, I worked in child dependency, child welfare, and I can remember making those jokes about, like, I don't have time for time management, right? Because we are dealing with unimaginable caseloads and circumstances. And I would even get upset at the idea of someone suggesting better time management. I was like, I don't have time for time management. But again, once I started saying I'm not prioritizing my time for time management, it causes that self-awareness, that inflection on, okay, well, if this isn't a priority to me, what I'm even doing here, right? If your goal is to, say, become a producer, right, in the audio industry, and to get you there, you need your degree from Full Sail. That also means you need to pass every class, and you need to get that knowledge and learn those skills. And if you're not prioritizing the time to do that, then it's going to be very difficult to reach that overall goal. Not impossible, right? We can navigate sometimes, but it has to line up. It has to line up, your goals and your priorities. So.
Yep, they really do. So we've only got about 10 minutes left together here. So if you've got any questions, please be sure to get them into the chat so we can address them. But you've been doing academic coaching for several years, and in various incarnations for even longer than the pandemic. But after several years, do you have any success stories, not to name names, but students who've graduated and gone on to work, who've come back and said, you know, this really made a difference for me?
All the time, and it can be challenging because we realize that it's a smaller population of students that we get to build that one-on-one relationship with, but we have seen how impactful it can be. Sometimes it's the student at the beginning of their journey, right? And they're just trying to figure out how to make those adjustments now that they're going through this transition of college. Sometimes it's the student who is 100 credits in and is just having trouble with that last cluster of courses. We see students all across the spectrum with their enrollment in all different various stages of academic progress. And as funny as it sounds, I think those are our favorite, the underdogs, right? The students who you see the referral come in and you're like, I don't know if they're going to make it. I don't know if we're going to be able to navigate around this or prioritize, or if right now, that's really what it is right now the right time for this.
Right.
And time and time again, we're proven wrong. And not that we're proven wrong, it's just, we're coming into it sometimes with realistic expectations saying, man, if you can't make these changes and dedicate the time and reprioritize how you spend your time, it's going to get more difficult as you progress. There's so many that come to mind, student stories. My favorite is when we receive messages afterwards. So we recently had a student reach out to their coach post-graduation and was like, sometimes we plant the seed and we don't get to see it grow, is what I like to say. We plant the seed, we don't always see it grow. And we have these examples where months after graduation, they come back and say, hey, all those things you talked to me about, confidence and problem solving and stress management and time management, I just wanted to let you know that I've been applying it. I went to my interview. I got the job. So all these stories that we get to hear afterwards. Oh, man. Yeah, there's so many amazing success stories of just students that didn't think they were going to make it to the end and then got there. And the reality is it wasn't us who got them there. It was just us who helped clarify the path sometimes. We're just kind of illuminating and clarifying until they get themselves back on track, right? Ultimately, it's the student that does this. We're not doing their work. We're not showing up to class for them. They just needed a little bit of a nudge on how to get back onto that path or how to take a different path. But yeah, it's amazing to see the students I call the underdogs that, it's like, this is just not going to work out, Full Sail. It's just not the right time for something as accelerated and immersive. So it's beautiful when you get to see that. And you get to see it's not always the end goal, right? Graduation is another step in their goal, but that is a huge success that we get to celebrate with them.
That's great. Thanks for sharing that. As you say, no one does it for you.
No.
When you get to success, it's your doing, but there are all sorts of people who've been pitching in and helping steer you down the right path and so forth.
Absolutely.
I think we actually have a question.
That we do, Brian. So Brandon Williams is asking, what is your advice for a person that is working 40 hours a week at jobs but prioritizes their education at Full Sail?
So there's an activity that we love using early in the time management journey called What's on Your Plate. That was in that SharePoint I had shared previously. And sometimes we just have to take a step back, right? I say instead of zooming in on the tree, zoom out on the forest and really get a good understanding of what is on your plate. And not just what's on your plate, but what might take up the most time, what might be the most intensive, because sometimes those things don't match up either. We don't get to spend as much time on our priorities as we like because there's other things that require our attention. If you feel like you have a pretty good grasp on your time management and your work-life balance, sometimes it does just come down to those small changes, right? Of looking at your entire schedule and saying, okay, on this day there's an hour, on this day there's 2 hours. How can we make the most of that time? Let's make sure we are implementing scheduling techniques. So something I like to recommend is to stack your scheduling tools. For me, I need my monthly at a glance, right? My Outlook calendar is me. If it's not on there, it's not getting done. That kind of dictates my day. I need my Outlook calendar and I need to see my month and weekly breakdowns. But each week I have to recalibrate and make myself a weekly priorities and a to-do list every day. So every day I'm having a to-do list that I'm going through because you need that, right? You need the big picture, the big month schedule, the week where we're at right now, and then those day-to-day tasks. And if I can keep the 3 of those things aligned, it usually helps me stay on top of deadlines and priorities. But again, it's constant recalibration because the day can take you wherever it takes you, the week can take you wherever it takes you. So that's my advice is once you have a really good grasp of where you have the time to dedicate, it's how you're going to dedicate that time. And again, managing the distractions, making sure things are prioritized, that you have a clear goal on what you want to accomplish in that time period. The other piece of advice I'd say is I hear a lot of students say that they're not motivated at that moment. Like, well, I just don't feel like doing it right now, so I'll wait till later to do it. And that kind of overestimation of our future motivation can be super dangerous. Because I do it to myself. Like, I'm not going to worry about the dishes after dinner. I'll get to it tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow morning comes, and I'm so upset at myself for not just doing it, because now it's ruining my morning routine. But, you know, that constant recalibration and doing things in the moment, right? We call it rip off the Band-Aid, just get started. We have another one where it's like the 5-minute rule. Even if it's a horrendous task you don't want to do, chances are you can do it for at least 5 minutes. And once you start going, your brain is kind of already prepped to continue. And our brain really doesn't like unfinished tasks. So if you start something and you work on it for a little bit, it's probably going to nag you until you finish it. So just like random tips to throw in there. The big overarching question is always going to be, do you have the time to dedicate? And time and time again, like I said, we're proven wrong by our students, right? In circumstances where like there's no way this is going to happen, they pull through. And I wish I could figure out what the magic ingredient is, but I think a lot of it again just comes down to the motivation and how to build the motivation to make sure that's your priority. And try that flip of language. So instead of saying, I don't have time for this, try saying, this is not my priority. And the way that makes you feel inside might motivate you to really make it become a priority.
I have a sneaking suspicion that I know what the magic ingredient is, but I'm gonna hold off on that for a second because I think Brandon had a follow-up question.
Yes, he did. He was wondering, how many hours would you suggest to dedicate to Full Sail online?
Oh,
I got that one.
Yes.
Average, not peak, 30 to 35 hours each and every week for the rest of your degree program. There's going to be weeks that it requires more than that. There's going to be weeks when you might get away with a little bit less than that. But it is a fire hose of information aimed at your face. And it has always been that from the minute that you found our website. So yeah, it takes a lot, and it takes the time that it takes you. That 30 to 35 hours is not just average from week to week, but average from person to person. There may be some people who can get the same amount of work done in less time than someone else takes more time. So it's a lot. But let me follow that up with what I think is the magic ingredient. And it's this. Brandon, you're amazing. You are absolutely flipping amazing. You know how I know that? Because I was in your shoes. 12 years ago, I started my master's degree at UCF as a saxophone performance major. I was, at the time, a department chair here at Full Sail, with more people answering to me than anyone else at the university. Thousands of students under my guidance, teaching and leading a group of teachers, designing curriculum, all of that, and doing my master's degree in saxophone performance. You may or may not realize that as a music performance major, you not only have all of your classes and all of your assignments and all of your homework and everything, but you also have to practice your major instrument for hours and hours every single day, because that's the most important thing in your school life at the time. I was getting up in the morning, coming here to Full Sail, teaching, working with amazing people like Michelle, talking to students, solving problems, troubleshooting things. When the end of the day arrived, which was anywhere from 8 to 10 to 12 hours after I had started, I went to UCF and I had classes. Every single night of the week, I had classes. And when I was done with class, then I had to go home and I had to see if there were any Full Sail flyers I needed to put out. And then I had to start my homework. And then I had to stop my homework and practice before it was the wee hours of the morning, so that I wasn't disrupting my whole household with hours of practice. And then when I was done practicing, I went back to doing my homework until the wee hours of the morning. And I had people saying to me on a daily basis, "How do you do it?" And I said, "What?" I genuinely didn't know what they were talking about. But 6 months after graduation, I'm standing at the kitchen sink washing dishes, and I just stopped. And I turned to my wife and I said, "Oh my God, how did I do this?"
Yep.
Because it was insane. Mm-hmm. And it is insane. And you have set yourself an insane task because you're insane, but you're amazing. And if it matters that much to you, and if being an engineer, being a producer, being a songwriter, composer, being a sound designer, owning your own studio, whatever it is, if it means that much to you, you're up to the task. And it's gonna hurt occasionally, but it's just that you have to focus on that drive, on that motivation, on the desire that brought you to this point. And yeah, it's gonna be insane, and you're gonna look back and you're not gonna understand how you managed to do it, but you are gonna do it.
Yeah.
So drop me a line and let me know how it's going. So I think that's the magic sauce.
Yes. And I probably a year into the pandemic, I had the same thing. I stopped and I was like, how did I survive that? How did I work remote with a kindergartner now doing virtual school and a toddler in the house? I look back and I'm like, I don't know how I did it, but there was no other option, right? There was no other option than to do it. Like you said, it's the motivation. When you can connect the dots to the big picture and you can see that the 20, 30, 40 hours a week in school is what's going to get you not just passing your classes, but gaining the competencies and the content you need to know, It's going to get you to graduation. It's going to progressively get you to that big goal, which is why it's so important to break goals down, because it can be hard when you're focused on, I want to own my production studio, but you're still at, I'm an active student and balancing full-time work. There's so many steps in between there. So you dig in, you do it, and you also celebrate each success. Celebrate each success to keep your motivation up. Yep. And I think you said something earlier about each student journey being unique and coming from different places. Another ingredient that I have seen that has helped students be successful is support. Support. Yeah. If you have support at home, if you have support online, if you have support, it can make a difference. Support allows us to navigate those stressful and overwhelming circumstances a little bit better. So building your support system, having that close inner circle, having, your maybe acquaintances and acquaintances in that middle. But don't forget about your providers too, right? Your academic advising, your coaching, the other people who can help you with support. So it's building your support system, knowing who you can lean on and what you can lean on them for is also just super important. We see it at graduation, right? Every month, students, Tim Gregory thanking the supporters of the students, because we know it makes a difference.
It really does. It really does. And I was particularly blessed in that regard. We're nearly at time, but our producer, John, had something to add to the discussion. John?
Hey, yeah, so I just wanted to let you guys know up there that Brandon Williams really appreciated that insight, citing it as amazing. And I think a lot of students are going to get a lot out of that. And hearing what you guys are speaking about too, I know for my students, this is really great stuff that they don't learn in the regular curriculum. So thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And thank you, Brandon. That's very gracious of you.
Yes.
We are out of time, but first let me just double check to be sure we don't have any additional questions. All right, we are clear. So, Michelle, as always, it's my great pleasure to get a chance to talk with you. We don't get to do it enough, but thank you for all you do for our students, and thank you for sharing the story of academic coaching with us today.
Yes, thank you. And I do hope for our viewers it was helpful, even if the only thing you got out of it is that we exist, right? There's a team called Academic Coaching. Again, all we can do is plant the seed sometimes, and then you get to water it, right, and make it grow. So hopefully planting that seed today, if you encounter some of those challenges with time management, with stress management, with goal setting, that seed, right, will start growing in that moment. Like, oh wait, there's somebody that can assist me with this. Let me go to Full Sail 1 and check out that coaching thing I heard about. And we're here on standby, right, for one-on-one, for our events, our workshops. They're a lot of fun. I know that sounds weird. How can procrastination be a fun topic to talk about? But when we have students like Brandon interacting in the chat with us, sharing their experiences, asking questions, it becomes a really fun process. And again, we also incentivize it not just by GPS, but the potential to win Full Sail gift cards to the hangar. So if you join us for our procrastination or coping skills workshops, you could potentially win some Full Sail swag.
Nice.
Yes.
Cool. That's not quite above and beyond the intrinsic value, right?
Yes, we've got to build it first with some extrinsic, and then we'll focus on the intrinsic after that. Got to get you there first.
Thanks so much. Well, we'd like to thank the Audiovisual Technologies course. We have a group of show production students working behind the scenes every month to bring this broadcast to you. Thank you so much, team. It's been a great pleasure working with you. And to your course director, John Kost, who's our producer and voice of God. Thank you for joining us today. A reminder when new episodes drop. And if you have friends who missed this, tell them they can always go to the same link and watch the recording. So join us. Make it a habit to be here on the fourth Monday of every month. And that's all we have for today. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Have a great day.